Yayoi Kusama is the world's best-selling and most recognized female living artist. Her work is iconic. Everybody knows her polka dots, and thanks to social media, it has become super, super viral. That is why probably I was hesitant about creating a sketchbook video inspired by her work because at one point I thought these are all going to be copies. But then I reflected for a little while and I decided that every time I look into an artist and their work, I learn so, so much. I learn about my own art practice. I learn about what I like to do, what I don't like to do, what colors I like. I learned so much from these masters. So I thought, yes, I'm going to go ahead. And today I'm going to share with you sketchbook ideas inspired by Kusama's work. So let's get our sketchbooks and get creative. Here's my sketchbook, and I want to start by placing some washi tape around my page to keep everything together. And I have to say, as I started editing, I realized for Kusama's work, I didn't create pages inspired by her work chronologically, but by what stuck with me, or rather by what ideas I got that I wanted to try after learning more about her as an artist. So my first page is inspired by her infinity nets. Kusama painted from the early age of 10, but she created these on her late 20s when she arrived to New York. Because I understood the original inspiration for these paintings was the surface and the ripples on water, I decided for my interpretation I would first cover the entire background of the page with watercolor using different shades of blues and purples in a very free and carefree way. I definitely wanted to achieve very clear different blocks of color. I helped the watercolor dry with a heat gun, and then using thick white acrylic paint, I started to draw the cells. I have to admit, because of how I usually work, it was hard for me to create these half circles, mimicking Kusama's strokes. Mine are definitely more circular. But what was interesting was varying the size and diameter of all the circles I painted on top of the different colors of watercolor. I liked trying this out to see what would come out and try to imagine what the piece would like at the end. I drew larger circles on top of the more saturated areas of the colorful background. And then, of course, it was just a matter of patiently filling all of the page with the cells. And as I do this, let's talk more about Kusama and her work. As I mentioned, she started painting from an early age, but her mom did not like this at all. She came from a wealthy family, and her mother saw her being a painter or working at all to be a disgrace. From Kusama's stories, we know that her mother was very abusive. She not only destroyed her materials to keep her from creating, but she would creep up on her from the back and rip whatever she was drawing from her hands. Imagine how traumatic that would be. Also, she would have Kusama spy on her father having relationships with other women when she was little, a fact that many think may have triggered Kusama's phobia to sex. So, Kusama basically decided that she needed to run away or escape from Japan to pursue her passion of becoming an artist. And she was inspired to go to the United States because, by chance, she found a Georgia O'Keeffe book in a library. And she was so amazed by the fact that there was this woman, famous artist in the United States. O'Keeffe wasn't known in Japan, but she was very much known in the States. So Kusama wrote O'Keeffe, and she very generously wrote her back and was very supportive, not only telling her that she needed to come to the United States and be in New York where everything was happening in the art world, but also by writing letters to some galleries introducing Kusama. So Kusama basically escaped to the United States with nothing. She burned about 2,000 pieces of her work, and she packed a suitcase full of her remaining drawings. And she burned so much art because she says she knew her best work was ahead of her. She arrived to a very competitive male dominated space, but even like that, she managed to have her first show in the United States within the year. And what she showed was all of her infinity net paintings. And what was so amazing about these and so impressive was that they were huge. And This was a way for Kusama to be immersed in her obsessions. We will talk more about that later and how her art reflects her mental state. But for now, I'm done with my page. And of course, that really didn't take me that long because I was working on a tiny sketchbook. But imagine the many hours that these endless paintings took her. I think the value and the beauty in them is exactly in their scale. It must be so beautiful to see them in person. I think I would like to try this on a larger scale, but I don't know if I would have the patience to finish it. Nor do I think I have the fixation she has, which may be needed to complete a painting like this one. But regardless, here's mine mocked up in a space for us to envision its potential as a larger piece. Moving on, again, I'm taping a border around my page, and this tape is a little thick for my sketchbook size, but I wanted to be cheeky and use tapes that have polka dots on them to honor Kusama. I started by painting a solid background with acrylic paint, and I like to use my wedge because this is fast and the paint dries faster too. Then I drew two butterflies. I saw butterflies have been a recurring theme in her later work when she returned to Japan. Using acrylic markers, I drew the butterflies as freely as I could because I tend to stress about symmetry, and then I filled the background with circles. On her butterfly paintings, she uses more of a triangular grid, but I wanted to do something different and use different size circles because this is something I've used on my own personal artwork before. I had to go over the butterflies a couple of times to make them opaque enough to be able to draw the polka dots on top. I think my favorite part about this page was definitely trying different color combinations. I started to use colors I would never before to start dotting on my butterfly, which I then stopped because I decided I wanted two colors on the butterfly and two different colors of polka dots on top, just like one of the reference images I saw. So I painted a border on the butterflies to be able to do that, and then I went back to the polka dots. And as I paint those, let's talk about Kusama's return to Japan. And yes, again, I'm not going about her life in chronological order, but narrating some facts pertinent to the art that inspired my pages. So in 1973, her hallucinations and obsessions that inspire much of her work overwhelmed her to the point where she decided to go back to Japan. By then, the news of her performances and her art had reached Japan, and it was very scandalous because she was painting on nude figures and doing all of these performances. She was protesting the war, and she was seen as a disgrace. She was very brave to leave the United States and everything she had accomplished, but the depression of being copied, which we will talk about more later, and her fragile mental state drove her to this decision. In Japan, she wasn't known as an artist at all, so she had to start from scratch. She started slowly working now as a middle aged woman, and the following 4 years after she returned were a period of increasing mental health struggles, including severe depression and hallucinations. So she admitted herself into the Siwa, I don't know how to pronounce that, hospital for the mentally ill in Tokyo, where she still resides to this day at the age of 96. She has her studio 2 blocks away, and every day she still walks there and works for about 8 to 9 hours and then returns to the hospital to sleep. So, all of the butterfly paintings I'm using as references have been created in that studio. After both my butterflies were fully dotted, I drew their little bodies on too. And honestly, I absolutely love the top butterfly. I'm obsessed with it. I think it's the best thing in the whole video. But the bottom one is so, this showed me how important color selection is on work like this. So I learned something. Remove the tape, and here are the butterflies. I really love the top one so much, it inspired me to try something on the next page. So again, I put a tape border down and a solid background with a wedge and acrylic paint. Once it dried, I used an acrylic marker in a different shade of purple to draw some cells on top of the entire page. Then I removed the tape from the sides and I drew a tree canopy. Yes, I wanted to paint a tree and apply polka dots to it. Trees are a theme I'm always coming back to. I love them. They hold special symbolism for me, and they have represented different things in different times in my life. Also, from what I could find in Kusama's work online, she has never painted trees. She has intervened them like, real trees. She has added polka dots to them, but no paintings of them. So I painted my tree, breaking the boundaries of the background, which I really like to do, and then I let it dry a bit. With another marker, I drew circles all over the canopy while it wasn't really dry. Honestly, I think adding these circles was a mistake because I had no circles for the background of the butterfly that I loved. But yeah, hey, I was experimenting and I thought the larger area would benefit from added layers or texture. Also, upon further observation of Kusama's work, I realized she only always uses 2 layers, and that works beautifully for her. Ugh, I feel my imposter syndrome is what leads me to overcomplicating things, and maybe this is why I've struggled so much to find my tree, but that's a story for a different day. On this day and on this sketchbook page, I was just experimenting, which is what I think sketchbooks are for. After adding dots to the tree trunk, I added a yellow border to the canopy to get that 2-colored surface, and I started to add all of the polka dots to the tree. Polka dots and more polka dots. Yayoi has explained that her obsession with these came from her hallucinations. She had the first hallucination at the age of 10, and she describes them as flashes of lights that become immense and immersive, fields of endless dots, and she feels obliterated by them. So she paints the dots from her trauma and obsession. But back to the page, I was done with all of the dots, and the result is, well, an experience. It's not even close to the beauty of the butterfly, in my opinion, but I like the idea of using dots on the tree somehow, so maybe this is something I'm willing to experiment with again and again until I find something that speaks to me and that works for me enough to like it. For the next page, I'm continuing with the washi tape border, and this time I wanted to do something related to one of her infinity rooms. The infinity rooms have definitely brought Kusama a ton of recognition through social media because people are obsessed by sharing their photos and videos in them on their accounts. And art lovers around the world are willing to stand in line for hours to be able to get content in one of these rooms and experience them. So I'm using this photo of an infinity room and I'm actually just going to recreate it. I know this is not groundbreaking, but simple exercises like this one give my brain some training in color combination and use of shapes and compositions. So believe me, this is good because it's like anything else. Repetition and experiencing the process, it's what really teaches you and makes you grow. So as I do this, let's talk about the infinity room since it's one of the things she's mostly recognized for. Before creating the infinity rooms, Kusama showed great potential and innovation. After the huge net paintings, she started to work with self-sculpture, creating endless amount of fabric phalluses that she used to cover different objects, creating shocking pieces. It was radical work. Again, she was using repetition. A famous example is this rowboat that she covered with the phallus, and she photographed it and then she used the print to cover all of the walls behind it like wallpaper. But both these concepts were copied by her male artist friends. The soft sculptures were adopted by artist Klaus Oldenburg, who before Kusama's work had only worked with hard materials. And as soon as he copied the soft sculpture, that made him take off and become recognized. Then the other famous copying or plagiarism case was by Andy Warhol, who was Kusama's friend. And after seeing this installation of her, he used wallpaper images and made them famous. So Kusama was really hurt by this, and what hurt her the most, she says, was not the plagiarism, but the lack of acknowledgement by their peers, and also that because they were male, they became more famous with her ideas. Having her ideas stolen made Kusama very depressed, to the point where she threw herself from her apartment window. But after surviving that attempt to end her life, she locked herself in her studio, covering all of the windows so no one could copy her work. And she reemerged in 1965 and presented her first infinity room, a mirrored room in which the entire floor was covered with these fabric polka dot sculptures. Here's where she truly became an environmental artist, recognized one, because she took away the viewer's ability to focus and she made them see things the way she did. No longer was the viewer in control. So many artists in the past have played with perspective, but we could always see the reality of that flat space. We could always see the limit. And here she has the perspective and the space enveloping you. It was something new, something radical, something no one had ever seen. This is what truly made her famous and stand out in New York, although it was copied too by many artists that presented concepts in infinity rooms. The original idea was and has always been credited to her. So yeah, back to my page and me copying this infinity room image. While I was adding polka dots on everything, I decided to change things up a little bit. And on the yellow circles, I added the polka dots differently from the reference image. I made them smaller and I drew them only to one side. Same thing with the red circles. I made the dots even smaller. And again, I had them on one side only. And that was it. Tape off, nice little exercise. It allowed me to understand composition better and it was relaxing. So I was ready to move to the next page. For this one, I drew a circle in the middle because I wanted to try these radial pieces Kusama has done a lot of. So I found so many beautiful variations that I got really inspired. I drew the circle in the middle and then drew these very irregular lines around it. And once I had this blue wheel structure, I started filling every single space with a different color. This is me just basically copying to see how I feel about it. Then I went over the blue dividing lines and added some pattern on top of them with different colors. And then I altered the quality of the blue line in response to the patterns on top. The colorful areas also needed pattern on them, so I went ahead and started to add that. I tried to give it a little bit of my personality with the pattern choices, so of course I added polka dots, but I also drew other elements I felt like having on there. I saw in a lot of these paintings, Kusama has parted from the polka dots and she has used other repetitive objects like eyes and sketches of half faces, and I found that to be very interesting. Also, like in some other pieces I've seen from her, I decided to write a phrase in the middle of that circle. And throughout her life, she's been very vocal about how against she is to war and confrontation. A lot of her work has represented that. So I thought it fitting to write "Love is louder" in the middle of my page to honor her ideas. I removed the tape and that's the page. I actually really like this one too. For the next one, again, I have my border and I wanted to try something black and white. I couldn't really find that many pictures of her black and white work, but there are images of her surrounded by black and white paintings, and those inspired me. I have to be honest though, I feel my results are not the greatest, but still I'm sharing this process because I think there's always some value in going through it. I filled the entire page with circles, making a few of them solid. And then I went into working inside of them, creating all of these ripples and textures that are inspired, of course, by her work. I also made curved lines to connect all of the spaces between the circles. And as I did, I reflected on how absolutely all of her work is about connecting infinite elements. She created patterns that could extend infinitely. It is very interesting to go through the process like this and reflect on what it does to you mentally. Like, it helps you understand her and how her art help her make sense of her panicking mind and of the world. I also think this exercise definitely kicks your creativity into gear because as you try subtle variations to fill the circles or to apply the same pattern but get different results, you'll start creating new things. Yeah, all of this is very interesting to me. Well, after filling every single circle and adding curvy lines to fill all of the spaces between them, I pulled my tape out and this is my result. Here are all the images we worked on today, and I hope they inspire you. And like I said, this video was about having an experience. It was more about me trying to get into her shoes than me trying to interpret her work in my style or with my language. That's why I feel this episode of my master's inspired sketchbook was completely different from the others. And I find that to be wonderful because every artist we study, we emulate or copy, teaches us something not only about their work, but also about ourselves and what we like. Understanding their work by actually working with their ideas will help us in developing our own style, our own work, and our own passions. And I hope from this video you at least take the idea that even very simple elements, something as humble as a polka dot, can carry you through immense distances if you follow your passion and stay true to yourself. I know I learned today that I don't need to overcomplicate to prove my skills. With that, I hope you enjoyed our time together, that I'll see you on my next video, and that you're having the most wonderful day. Bye!